Okay, so my topic is on the sport of ultimate frisbee. And sometimes when you're walking around the mall, you might see some people throwing around frisbee or look at a beach. And this casual activity is actually a legitimate sport. So I'm going to show a video about some basics about it that I might cover later on in the speech. Does this sound on? Is there sound?
Pause it. Go to the, oh, you closed it. Just go to classroom applications at the bottom. The tab at the bottom. Click on, go to the desktop and click on AV controls. There we go. Manual. And the volume is on the, there you go.
How high is the per?
I think higher. Computer's unusually low. Ah,
That's
good.
Oh my God.
That's good, that's good, that's good. Okay. Don't
It's terrible.
Used to be a couple kids in the quad on any sunny day at the university has become serious business for serious athletes. In order to know the sport, you're going to have to understand some of the tricks and terms that go along with it. Let's start with the throws. First, there's the backhand throw. Nice. Then, the classic forehand. And of course, there's the stylish hammer throw. For short distances, there's the push. For long distances, there's the huck. When play gets intense, you might see some hacks. Great diving plays are layouts. That's me. Just kidding. When the game begins, throw-off is called a pull. After the catch, if you take more than 3 steps, you get a travel, sort of like in basketball. But unique to ultimate, and unlike other sports, penalties are called by the players themselves in a format called the spirit of the game.
Okay. So, a couple things were covered in the video that I'll explain later in my speech. One were some of the rules, some of the throws, and the idea and spirit of the game, which is an important concept in ultimate frisbee. So when I was in high school, I played 3 sports. I played soccer, basketball, and golf. And my friend kept trying to recruit me to play ultimate frisbee, but I kept turning him down because I thought the sport was not a real sport. I thought it didn't have enough contact in it. Ironically, I played golf too, so I don't know what the reason for that was. But eventually, he convinced me, and I ended up playing in my senior year. And I really enjoyed it a lot. Here's some pictures. I'm very non-athletic. Not very big. But, so I guess I didn't know what any of the throws were. I didn't know how to play at all, but I really enjoyed the idea of the sport, and I thought that if I went to college, I would explore it even more. So when I came to the University of Maryland, I realized that I wanted to play ultimate. And it was really exciting because in college, a lot more players play, and a lot of athletes who used to play football and other sports switched to Club Ultimate. And I was astonished to see like the growth of the sport and what it used to be. And apparently, the numbers of players have grown exponentially to what they used to be. So the history of Ultimate comes from this. According to ultimatefrisbee.com, a group of students from Columbia High School started the sport in their parking lot by just throwing around a frisbee and just experimenting rules, creating end zones with the light poles or whatever was in their parking lot at the time. And according to USA Ultimate, this sport has now grown exponentially to over 700 college club teams in the country. And over 80 conference tournaments are going on now in 2011. And according to the World Flying Disc Federation, there are 42 countries and hundreds of thousands of women and men play. So Ultimate today, USA Ultimate, which is the governing body of Ultimate Frisbee, sanctions tournaments for players, and like I said before, there are over 700 college teams. Here's some other pictures of some people playing. So I've talked about how the history of Ultimate and how I've gotten into the sport. These are some of the rules of how you play. And wow. So basically, there are 10 basic rules that are supposed to be shown on. So USA Ultimate has a link on their website. If you go to usaultimate.com, it says Ultimate and 10 simple rules, which this is a chart that doesn't apparently transfer. But so basically in Ultimate, you have 7 players on each side with a 120-yard field with 25-yard end zones. And the idea is to throw the disc without moving and advance the disc and catch it in the end zone like in football. And if you move, it's a travel like in basketball. And a lot of times they compare the other sports to those sports, but it's not a lot of contact like in football. You can't hit somebody while they're throwing or else it's a foul. And what sets Ultimate unique from other sports is that it's self-officiated, which means players call their own fouls and it still remains competitive. The idea of spirit of the game is a very important one, which is the idea that there's an honor code among players where you will call your own fouls, and the integrity of sport will be called spirit of the game. And collectively, if everyone upholds to this idea, then the game can be self-officiated without having any conflicts. A lot of times when players when they throw the disc and they get hit, they call a foul, and the other player will accept that they made a foul. And this allows the game to be very competitive without the use of officials. And the overall idea of respect is one of the main key reasons for to have spirit of the game flourish and have the game be self-officiated. So the future of Ultimate, how can it grow without officials? If there aren't refs, how can you have NCAA games? How could you have Olympic games? And that's something that the World Flying Disc Federation is going to look into. The growth of the sport and the number of players is growing exponentially, and there's so many more youth players playing in high school these days that the sport is only going to grow. And I want to emphasize that it's the fastest growing sport in the last 30 years compared to, I guess, college lacrosse would be the most recent after that, before that. Okay. I'm sorry, my PowerPoint stinks.